Hey everyone, Josh here from Sprout Philippines and Yabong Pilipinas in partnership with Omaha Gardener. Welcome back to Soil Smart, gardening from the ground up. Today, we're diving into one of the most important topics in this entire series, and that is soil fertility and nutrient management. If you've ever wondered why your plants grow slowly, turn yellow, or don't even flower or fruit the way you expected it, today's episode will give you the answer. What does soil fertility really mean? Let us start with the basics. When we talk about soil fertility, we're talking about the soil's ability to supply nutrients to plants exactly when they need them and in the right amounts. Think of the soil as a whole system where three major parts work together: the nutrients, which act as the food, the biology, which serves as the cooks, and the structure, which functions as the kitchen. If any one of these is off balance, your plant will feel the impact. Plants need nutrients just like humans need vitamins and minerals. But instead of B12 or iron, plants rely on nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, the famous NPK that we know, in order for them to grow and also be healthy. Now, let us break down the big three nutrients, or what we call the macronutrients. Every gardener should know these elements. First up is nitrogen, or simply N. It is also referred to as the leaf builder. On the technical side, nitrogen supports chlorophyll production and drives vegetative growth. So remember, nitrogen, it is related to our leaves. So in simple terms, it's the nutrient that makes plants green, lush, and leafy. When there's too little nitrogen, leaves turn yellow and plants grow slowly. But when there's too much nitrogen, you'll end up getting oversized leaves or hardly any flowers or fruits. Next is phosphorus, or simply P. It is also called the root and the flower booster. Technically, phosphorus is crucial for energy transfer through ATP. What a very big term in the science world. It helps plants develop strong roots and produce flowers. Put simply, this is the nutrient that powers root growth and encourages blooms and fruiting. When plants don't get enough phosphorus, they struggle to flower, their roots stay weak, and they turn purplish or unusually dark. And finally, we have potassium, or simply K, the plant health vitamin. In more technical terms, potassium regulates water movement inside the plant. It activates important enzymes and strengthens disease resistance. The simple explanation, well, potassium helps plants keep healthy. It helps them handle stress and even improves their ability to fight off diseases. When potassium is lacking, plants may develop brown leaf edges, they can produce low quality fruits and have weak stems. These three macronutrients, N, P, and K, are the numbers you see on every fertilizer label, such as 10-10-10 or 5-1-1. Each one of them corresponds to N, P, and K. Aside from the primary macronutrients, NPK, plants also depend on secondary macronutrients such as calcium, magnesium, and sulfur. These are needed in moderate amounts and play big roles in plant health. Calcium helps build strong cell walls inside the plant. It also prevents blossom end rot in some plants like tomato, while magnesium is essential for chlorophyll production as well. So magnesium helps nitrogen for chlorophyll production. Then we have the micronutrients, which plants need in tiny trace amounts. But when they are missing, your plants will absolutely show it. Key micronutrients include iron, which prevents yellow leaves with green veins. Another one is zinc, which supports new leaf growth. Another one is manganese for photosynthesis, boron for flower and fruit development, and copper for enzyme activity. A simple way to remember it is primary macronutrients or NPK. These are like the full meals for the plants. Secondary macronutrients, calcium, magnesium, and sulfur, are like major side dishes. And micronutrients are the vitamins and minerals, small in dose but huge in impact. Now, let us talk about how to recognize when something is missing. So, this is what we call nutrient deficiency. Symptoms can get confusing, but most nutrient issues show up in the leaves. So, that's where you should look first. For example, when there are yellowing leaves, it can mean different things. If older leaves turn yellow first, that's usually a nitrogen deficiency. Take note of that. But if the new leaves turn yellow and the veins stay green, you're likely looking at an iron deficiency, which is especially common in alkaline soils like what you have there in Omaha. If your leaves are turning purple or unusually dark, that's often a sign of low phosphorus. On the other hand, if you have brown, crispy edges, it usually points towards a potassium deficiency. And if you're noticing blossom end rot on tomatoes or peppers, a soft black spot at the bottom, this is usually a calcium related issue. Whenever you have weak, slow growing plants, that can signal a general nutrient problem. But they can also mean that your soil is too compacted, preventing roots from absorbing what's already there in the soil. The key isn't just spotting what's wrong, it's about figuring why it is happening. Sometimes the nutrients are actually present, but your soil pH, compaction, or even drainage is blocking your plants from accessing them. So you need to observe and look at your garden. Now, let us talk about the two main types of fertilizers that gardeners use. First, we have organic fertilizers. These include things like compost, manure, worm castings, bone meal, and even kelp meal. Organic options release nutrients slowly. They improve soil structure, feed beneficial microorganisms, and are generally harder to over apply. The trade off is that they work more slowly compared to synthetic fertilizers. Their nutrient levels can vary, and they can sometimes be more expensive. The simplest way to think about them is this: organic fertilizers feed the soil, and the soil in turn feeds the plant. On the other side, we have synthetic fertilizers, such as the 10-10-10 blends. We have urea, ammonium sulfate, and various water soluble products. These deliver fast results. They have precise nutrient levels and they are easy to apply. However, they do not contribute to soil structure. They can be overapplied. In the worst cases, they can even halt the growth of living organisms inside your soil. It can also cause salt buildup, and heavy misuse may harm soil life. In simple terms, synthetic fertilizers feed the plant directly and not the soil. So, which one is better? Honestly, Both have their place in gardening. Many gardeners rely on organic fertilizers to build long term soil health, while also supplementing with synthetic options during periods when the plant's nutrient demands are especially high. So, that is what we call integrated nutrient management. Now, let's go to soil testing. Soil testing is basically your gardening cheat code. A proper test gives you a full snapshot of what's happening beneath your feet. It shows your nutrient levels, your organic matter percentage, your soil pH, and even specific recommendations on how to improve whatever is lacking. When your results come in, the first thing you should look at is the pH. If the pH is off, fix that before adding any fertilizers because pH affects nutrient availability more than anything else. Even if your soil is rich in nutrients, plants won't be able to absorb them properly if the pH is too high or too low. Next, check your organic matter percentage. Healthy garden soil typically has around 5% or more. If the number is lower than 5%, your soil will likely have poor structure and weak overall fertility, which means it won't hold nutrients or moisture as effectively. And finally, look at your nutrient levels. These are usually labeled as low, mid, or high. Low means you should apply fertilizer. Medium suggests you may only need a light supplement of that specific nutrient. And high means you don't need to add anything at all. Instead of guessing or relying on assumptions, you should do a soil test every 1 to 3 years and follow the recommendations there. It saves time, it saves money, it saves a lot of gardening frustration. Now, let's talk about what your garden actually needs crop by crop. Leafy greens like lettuce, spinach, and kale thrive when they have plenty of nitrogen. If you remember a while back, nitrogen is responsible for leaf development. So, leafy vegetables, heavy nitrogen consumers. If you prefer organic options, compost paired with fish emulsion works wonderfully. If you want something quicker or more direct, a balanced synthetic fertilizer like a 10-10-10 blend will do the job. Tomatoes and peppers, on the other hand, rely more on phosphorus and potassium. If they get too much nitrogen, they will grow lots of beautiful leaves, but they will hardly fruit. That's why bone meal and tomato specific fertilizers are great additions. And don't forget, consistent watering is key to preventing blossom and drought. Fruit crops such as berries and strawberries generally prefer slightly acidic soil and a balanced feeding routine. Blueberries are especially picky. They really need a low pH to thrive. When it comes to root crops like carrots, beets, and radishes, they perform best in loose soil with moderate fertility. If they receive too much nitrogen, you'll often end up with forked or hairy carrots, which no gardener wants. On the other hand, we also have flowering plants which rely heavily on phosphorus to produce big and vibrant blooms. A balanced fertilizer early in the season helps them establish and later on a bloom booster with lower nitrogen and higher phosphorus and potassium encourages more flowering. For gardeners in Omaha, specifically, the slightly alkaline soils that can make nutrients, especially iron and manganese, hard for plants to absorb, increasing organic matter and using sulfur based amendments over time can help correct this and make nutrients more available to plants. So that's your deep dive into soil fertility. What nutrients plants need, how to spot deficiencies, and how to choose fertilizers, and how to manage fertility for the crops that you love. When you understand your soil, your garden becomes easier, healthier, and a lot more rewarding. Until then, keep experimenting, keep learning, and keep growing from the ground up. This is Josh, your Omaha gardener, in this series, Soil Smart Gardening from the Ground Up. And remember, if you grow it, you know it.